20 years ago, if you wanted a fast, affordable performance car that could seat 5 and had all-wheel drive, your choice was pretty simple, wasn't it? Buy a Subaru WRX or a Mitsubishi Evo. Fast forward to the present, however, and things have changed. The Evo is no more. That one still stings a bit, doesn't it? And the Subaru has been swamped by a host of really capable front and all-wheel drive rivals. Sadly for Subaru, the WRX's icon status had started to dip a little bit. Now though, we have an all-new Subaru WRX and the headlines are promising. There's a new platform, a bigger and more powerful engine, a more luxurious and tech-infused cabin, and excitingly, the choice of 2 body styles, a sedan and a wagon. The question is, has it worked? Has Subaru once again leapt sideways to the top of the affordable performance car segment, or is it stuck in the past? Today we're driving the manual RS sedan to find out. We're going to cover quite a lot of ground in this video, so the chapter markers for all of the key areas are in the description below. And if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe because it really does help us make more videos like this one. All right, let's talk price because value has long been a part of the WRX's appeal. You could buy the old WRX for a whisker under 40 grand, but the new range is now bigger and more expensive than ever. You can get into it from $44,990 for the entry-level manual sedan, and the range now tops out at $57,990 for the flagship TS Sport Wagon. The car we're driving today, however, is the mid-spec RS sedan in manual guise, and it costs $50,490 before on roads. Okay, the design. When Subaru first showed this 5th generation WRX to the world, it was pretty controversial. Some people liked it, but a lot of people thought it was too busy, and a lot of them balked at the plastic wheel arch surrounds. I'll admit that I was one of the dubious ones, but I'm pleasantly surprised about how the car looks in the metal. It is much more convincing in real life. And it's not just me. We had a couple of people walk by before, and they all said, looks crap in photos, looks great in the metal. So trust us, in the metal, it is a much more convincing thing to look at. Now, in terms of standard equipment, every version of the WRX now gets LED headlights, which are steering responsive. You get a WRX bonnet scoop, of course. This is a Rex, has to have one of those. Our car is finished in sapphire blue, which I quite like. Every version also gets 18-inch wheels, and I've got to say, I even like the plastic wheel arch surrounds in the metal. If you look closely, they've got this sort of dimpled texture to them, kind of like a golf ball. And Subaru says that helps with how the air flows down the side of the car. Wagon versions don't get these plastic wheel arch surrounds, and they also don't get the sort of pumped up front quarter panels either. So the wagon looks a little skinnier, a little less aggressive. Another key difference to point out between the sedan and the wagon is that they run different wheel and tyre packages. They're both 18 inches, but in the sedan you get 245/40 R18 Dunlops, and in the wagon you have skinnier 225/45 R18 Yokohamas. Down the side you get these pronounced rear guards, which again look better in the metal than they do in pictures. And around the back you get loads of this dimpled plastic and quad exhausts. But don't be fooled into thinking this is a performance car with a gutsy sounding soundtrack, because as we'll get to when we take it for a proper drive, the burble, the box of burble which has defined Subaru WRXs for decades, has all but disappeared. That's a real shame. At least though, the boot is a decent size, 411 litres, but if load lugging capacity is a real priority for you, the wagon has more, 492 litres with the third row up, and if you drop the third row, that expands to more than 900 litres in the wagon. It's inside where this new Rex has taken a quantum leap over its aging predecessor. Materials quality, general ambience is a big step forward, although you can still find some hard plastics here on the upper dash, but overall it is a very nice place to be. Infotainment has taken a big step forward as well. This big 11.6 inch portrait style touchscreen is the same as you get in something like a Subaru Outback, and I'm a big fan of touchscreens arranged in a portrait orientation. It supports wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. There's no wireless connectivity or even a wireless charging pad, which is a bit of a bummer. But at least Subaru hasn't buried things like HVAC controls and other key functions inside the center screen, which a lot of other rivals are starting to do. Even when you have your phone plugged in for Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, you retain this strip here on the center screen for your HVAC controls, and you get physical buttons for the temperature control, which is a big win. There are a few little niggles, like having to go through a two-step process to change your seat heater or to turn on the recirculated air. That's kind of annoying when you're on the move, but overall, the user interface for the new WRX is a clear strength. The seats are very comfortable and they're also heavily bolstered, which is great. And they're finished in a suede-like material in this RS version, and they're also electrically adjustable. Entry-level versions of the new Rex have to make do with manual seats. The seating position itself is very good, thanks mostly to loads of reach and tilt adjustment on the steering wheel. If I was being very picky, and I'm gonna be, I do wish that the driver's seat went a smidge lower. Still, you do get a good sense of space in here. This 5th generation WRX is longer, wider and lower than before, and its wheelbase has been stretched by 25 millimeters, so you do get a good sense of space in here. Standard equipment levels are also very generous. Now, I'm not going to list everything the new WRX comes with, but I will post a link to my full written review up here now, so if you want to know everything this car has, go and give that a read. But I will point out a few things that the WRX misses out on, because if you go for the manual gearbox, and Subaru says 40% of owners probably will, there's a few things you're going to miss out on, which is a real bummer. The first to point out is Subaru's EyeSight active safety system. Now that is fitted as standard to automatic versions of the new WRX, but in the manual, you miss out on it. And that means you miss out on potentially life-saving safety systems like autonomous emergency braking, lane keep assist, and adaptive cruise control. That's a real shame. Manual cars also miss out on the adaptive chassis, adaptive dampers, and multiple drive modes that top spec TS versions of the new WRX get, and they're automatic only. Weirdly, the other thing that you miss out on if you go for the manual gearbox is rear air vents. They're just not there. And I don't know about you, but for me, that is a must-have if you're going to put kids back there. Oh, and another thing worth pointing out, you can't have a manual gearbox with the WRX wagon, which seems like a missed opportunity. The back seat in this manual sedan is a little bit hit and miss. I'm sat behind my own driving position. I'm 6'2", and as you can see, I've got acres of knee room, and I'm also pretty well looked after in the tow room department as well, because like I said earlier, the driver's seat doesn't go quite as low as I'd like it to. But headroom is an issue. My head is brushing the ceiling. That could get old very quickly. And also, you do get heated seats back here for the second row. That's good. And you get 2 USB-A ports under here. But like I said earlier as well, you don't get rear air vents. So if you're going to be putting kids back here on a regular basis, I'd recommend going for the automatic version of the WRX. And if headroom is a priority for second row passengers, maybe consider a wagon, because its longer roofline means that it has no headroom issues at all. So that's all of the boring practical stuff out of the way. Let's get to the most important thing for a car that wears a WRX badge, and that's how it drives. Just like the level of active safety gear you get and how much room and amenity you have in the back seat, how your WRX drives will depend entirely on which version you go for in the model range, because some versions in the model range don't deliver what I would say is a traditional WRX experience. The wagon, for example, has a chassis setup that is significantly softer than the sedan. That's great because it means it's more supple, more comfortable around town. It's going to be great for taking the kids to school, but it also means it's not as sharp or as capable when you want to go for a proper drive. The wagon's also 100 kilograms heavier and has those skinnier 225 Yokohama tires, which don't deliver the same amount of confidence and grip you get in the sedan. Happily, the version that we're in now, which is the RS manual sedan, it does miss out on some active safety gear and rear headroom, but it also delivers what I would say is the closest you can get to a traditional WRX experience. It's considerably firmer than the wagon. It can feel a little bit terse around town, sometimes a little bit unsettled over really choppy back roads, but the trade-off is unwavering body control and confidence when you start to push on a windy piece of road. That's paired with steering that is a dynamic highlight. The rack is now quicker than before. It's nice and immediate off center, and it's also unwaveringly accurate. The amount of confidence and grip you have at the front axle is seriously impressive, actually. The key dynamic takeaway, having driven this car quite a lot now, is of ultimate grip. Grip has always been a key dynamic pillar for the WRX, and it's good to know that it hasn't been thrown to the curbside with this new generation. And we're on a windy piece of road now, and really, I don't know if many of the WRX's hot hatch competitors, especially front wheel drive ones, could deliver the same amount of confidence, stability and grip that we have at our disposal here. That's paired with a brake pedal that is probably my favorite part of the dynamic puzzle in this new Rex. The stopping power is really, really impressive, and the pedal itself, initially I was a bit worried that it might feel a little bit wooden, but when you start to push into the pedal properly, it's great modulation there. Again, it really does inspire confidence, and I think that's the key thing for me with this car. The more you sort of lean on it, the better it gets, and just don't expect too much in the way of rear end adjustability or playfulness, but in terms of point-to-point confidence, pace and grip, this new Rex really does deliver. And because it's all-wheel drive, where a lot of its rivals at this price point are front-wheel drive, it also means that if it's raining, or if the road is greasy, or even if you're on dirt, you're going to have similar levels of confidence to press on. I mean, we're driving along a dirt road now, in the wet, the surface is slippy, the car's moving around a little bit, but I do have the confidence to push on and have, woohoo, a lot of fun actually. And in a lot of front drive rivals, you certainly couldn't do what we're doing in a WRX right now. Okay, let's talk about the engine. Every version of the WRX now uses a 2.4 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder boxer, and it's basically the same engine in the old WRX but with a host of changes. So displacement has gone up obviously by 400cc, and Subaru's engineers have also made a host of changes to the internals of the engine. The result is a huge power increase of 5 kilowatts. So total output is now 202 kilowatts, and torque remains unchanged at 350 Newton meters. So it doesn't sound like a lot of improvement for a bigger capacity engine, but the devil is in the detail and how this engine feels when you drive it, because the result is a linear power delivery that doesn't really feel turbocharged actually. It revs all the way through to the red line, and there's no massive torque cliff that you fall off either. So it really does reward you for revving it all the way out to the 6,000 RPM red line. I just wish it sounded angrier, or not even angrier, just sounded more like a WRX, because we've got quad exhausts out there, we've got all of the ingredients that a WRX has had for 30 years now, but the soundtrack has been, it's like they've just turned the volume all the way down. This manual version does have a subtle boxer backing track, but you've really got to listen to it. And when you're really starting to press on, you just don't get the characteristic boxer burble. I mean, listen to this. The main thing you hear is sort of induction noise and a bit of whining from the engine itself. If I was buying this car, the first thing I'd be doing is putting an aftermarket exhaust on there, or doing something just to improve the soundtrack. You might think I'm being a little bit too harsh on the way that the car sounds, but you've got to remember, Subaru isn't building an STI version of the WRX this time around. The company has confirmed that the iconic STI badge is now being reserved for a future electric model. So this is as hardcore as Subaru's sporting sedan is going to get. And I don't know, for me, it's just not quite angry or exciting enough. As for the gearbox itself, it's okay. It's not a weakness, but it's not a massive highlight either. The manual unit is actually the same unit as the old WRX, but they've made a few changes to the way that the gears are machined to make it less noisy in the cabin and to improve shift feel. But look, like I said, it's okay. It's nice and accurate. The throw's sort of medium length. It's not short, it's not overly long, but it's certainly not the last word in tactility or precision either. So it does the job, but it's not what I would call a dynamic highlight. The manual is, however, the gearbox I would choose over the other transmission in the WRX range, and that is a CVT. Now, CVTs are usually about as exciting and as sporty as your grandma's dressing gown, but Subaru says that the CVT unit fitted to this 5th Gen Rex will change enthusiasts' opinions about CVTs forever. And I gotta say, they kind of did. It's, you know, got 8 artificially stepped ratios. It's got paddles behind the steering wheel. It's actually pretty quick and positive. It does still have a little bit of the traditional CVT slur between ratios, but I have to say, it is the best CVT I've ever driven. But if you're anything like me and you kind of have certain expectations about how a WRX should drive, you're probably going to want to go for the manual, and Subaru does expect 40% of owners to do just that. So it's a bit of a mixed bag, this new WRX. It's certainly faster, more capable, more stable than the model it replaces, but the version to buy, if you care about driving, is a manual sedan. And that means you're going to miss out on all the active safety gear, the adaptive dampers, and rear air vents. So that's not ideal. Subaru should be commended because it now has a more capable and a wider model range than before, and kudos for offering a more comfortable wagon. But if you're chasing an experience that harks back to the visceral WRXs of old, I think you might be a little bit disappointed. This new model has certainly grown up, but if you're anything like me, and maybe you haven't, it might have lost a little bit of its magic.